Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss how one of the new Reform UK mayors hasn't taken long to break ranks with one of his party's major policies because it conflicts with the local economy. A sign that Farage's anti-net zero agenda could well come under increased pressure if Labour succeed in greening the economy in line with their plans. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So Reform UK have an official policy of scrapping all spending, all support, all investment on green energy projects. Absolutely anything connected with net zero is not to be supported by the party in government. Now, when talking about Labour's net zero policy in the past, I have pointed out a few advantages beyond just the short-term benefits of lower emissions, which will be trashed the second they lose power. Because it doesn't matter what Labour do in power. It doesn't matter what they build. The Tories, whether it's the Conservative Party or their more sinister cousins, Reform UK, will be able to collapse it all within years of taking office after them. I've seen it twice now. It'll happen a third time. Labour are not going to remain in power forever. And when they do fall again, they're not going to be replaced by the happy sunshine, let's all get along party. It will be the we'll sell our own country to anyone who donates to our campaigns party. And the fossil fuel lobby have been the biggest spenders in politics for generations. So, Reform UK, happily taking this money, now in crypto, are committed anti-net zero, but where Labour have a long-term guarantee plan is in making sure more and more jobs transition away from fossil fuel heavy industries towards green technology. The fact that green tech produces way greater returns than it costs will not save it. Economic arguments never work on the macro scale. For example, Labour's Sure Start centres, which are becoming newsworthy again now, it was proven that they delivered more to the economy than they cost. In other words, they were an effective money-making machine, not a money-costing one. The Tories still scrap them though. An industry will not be saved just because it's good for the economy. However, if lots of jobs depend on it, that is a better guarantee. And the transition is important as well. We don't just need more jobs dependent on green tech, we need fewer in the fossil fuel industry. So we ideally need to move jobs from one to the other and as quickly as possible. That way you strengthen green tech and weaken big oil. And a sign of just how effective this strategy is was on show this week. At the start of the month, Hull took leave of their senses and voted for Reform UK Mayor Luke Campbell. However, he was recently asked about the jobs dependent on net zero industries in the region, and Campbell replied he had always supported the region in green energy and will carry on supporting the jobs in the sector. Now, when he was then asked a follow-up question specifically about, so how do you square that with your party's policy on net zero? He said he will put the region ahead of party politics. Now, of course, politicians always say things like that, whether they mean it or not. After all, who would be stupid enough to say they would put party politics ahead of the public? But Campbell wasn't trying to be evasive with his answers. He didn't give vague assurances that he was putting the region ahead of party politics, but without any further details. No. He was clear. He supported the green industry in the region and the jobs dependent upon them, and he said he was going to carry on doing so. That is a very explicit break with one of his party's major policies. And this isn't like a politician disagreeing with a fringe policy from their party leadership. That happens in every party, it's quite normal. This is a fundamental disagreement on a core Reform UK policy. Because think about the big policies. Like, Labour, for example, they've got lots and lots of policies, but their major policies and the ones they push a lot, workers' rights, green energy, rebuilding the NHS, tackling water companies' environmental damage, halving violence against women, tackling smuggling gangs, resetting EU relations, creating a real living wage. These are the ones that they have pushed time and time again. They have lots of policies, but those are the ones they push the hardest in their messaging. For Reform UK, it's anti-immigration, which is their big unifying one, of course, but also anti-net zero and the more nebulous anti-woke agenda, which tends to boil down to white supremacy patriarchy dressed up as anti-diversity. They actually don't have anything else which they focus on. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when they get a big platform, these are the three things they bang on about. So Campbell has not just broken ranks on one of their big three policies, but he's done so without even trying to smudge the issue. This would be like a Labour MP being in favour of scrapping the NHS, or a Lib Dem wanting to trash human rights laws, or a Tory declaring their income properly. And it makes you wonder what really unites the party fundamentally, and if there might not be more breaks with party policy as Reform UK win more and more elections. Because despite me saying I think there are headwinds coming their way before the next general election, I don't imagine they're all going to implode in the next couple of months. So I think the councillors, Reform UK won this month, I think as they find their feet, could well start to prove problematic for Farage and Yousaf's control freakery, and they're going to win more next year. The more politicians they get, the more difficult they will find it to control them with just two men who have their own separate careers outside the party that they control. This reluctance of Farage to delegate, remember, that created a schism with Rupert Lowe at a time where Reform UK had just 5 MPs and a few dozen councillors. That's not going to get any easier to manage if his elected politicians start going off-piste and he gets more and more of them. And when Reform's policies run into direct conflict with jobs and services, and they do, they're going to be in trouble. Remember, the reason Farage doesn't want to make Reform UK a real political party is because of the scars from his time running UKIP. He hated the infighting. He saw the problem as this is what happens when you give too many people a say in running of things. They all squabble and bicker and argue, and it's a right mess. So, given that he's not actually pro-democracy, he decided the only way to proceed was to have a political party where he was the undisputed dictator. Yes, he trusts Zia Yousaf to manage a lot of things, but there are no structures within the party where decisions are made. Farage makes all the decisions. There's no council, there's no committee. So how would such a person take to one of his new mayors breaking ranks like this? Now, it's not made the national news, so he can shrug it off. But what if it starts happening a lot? What if it starts being noticed? What if lots of Reform politicians start doing their own thing? This breaking of ranks with Hull's new mayor is just the first big example of it. I think they're all really just united on the xenophobia. I think a lot of Reform UK politicians, just like their voters, actually do care about jobs and the standard of living for ordinary people and public services. Farage only pretends to care. And this is where he's going to have problems, I think. He's sculpted this party which pretends to care about certain values, which he doesn't really hold. But the con has to work on voters. And for it to work on voters, inevitably it has to work on their candidates as well. Farage is creating a party that, because of his con, is actually going to be quite divergent in its values to the ones he really holds. And something will have to give. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.